Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how you can end with this image by beginning with, let's take a look, with this image. Okay, so that's what this video will show you how to do, how to start with this image right here, how to go in, select that, make a selection, take that image, working with quick masks actually, pasting it into a new layer, creating just a plain old colored background, and then adding a drop shadow and adding just this little bit of color to the tie. So here goes. Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you the steps that I took to get my end result that I showed at the beginning of this video. And this image is going to be a black and white image with limited use of color. Okay, so here goes. So I start with this image, and I love this little image of my son. So what do I need to do? Well, first thing, I love this picture of him, but of course there's all this stuff on the floor. Surprise, surprise. So what I want to do is I'm going to select him and cut him out of this environment. So how do I go about doing that? Well, first thing is I come on in, I open up my background layer, and actually, you know what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just duplicate this layer just because it's great to have that original right underneath here. And then at the very end, your files get really big in Photoshop, so we can come in and we can merge them all at the end. So if I want to name this, I can, and I'm going to name this Theo. So here goes. Now I want to make a selection. Now let's take a look at this selection. What I want to go over right now is how you go about making a quick selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on in here, I'm going to grab my quick selection, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to start selecting him. Now this is great. It's getting a lot of him. It's getting really an awful lot of him. All right, not all of them. So see, I'm coming around, and I did a good job. I got most of them, right? So I can come down, I can push this down. Now I have I should have gone over a little bit about the pixels mindset at 30. Let's say that I wanted to kind of push this back in. Okay, it's thinking, if I hold down Option, and I want to zoom in, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Right now I'm at 16%. Okay, so if I hold down Option, I want to show you what happens. See how there's a minus in there? Okay, so I can come in and I can click and I can push this back over. So I want to get right up on this, and I can see what's happening over in here. It's getting all of this, but I want to come on in and get him a little bit clearer. Okay, so I can see, this is probably the best. Hold down Option again, push this in, push it in. So, unfortunately, sometimes the way that this works the best, you can see like around his black shirt, see how easily it was able to differentiate the black versus what's around it? That was because there's such a big difference in the colors of the pixels. Now, what happens is we start getting close to the ear against the white. We can see that, it's not as easy when we get up in this area because there's similarities in color. All right, so but what we can do to get a really nice, clear selection is we can actually work with our quick selection tool, which is right down here. So I'm going to click this and you're going to see what happens. Okay, so I click this and this is what it looks like. What we're doing now is we're creating a mask. This is a quick mask. So let me double click this. And what it's saying is that the color indicates, if yours looks different, just to follow along more easily with this video, double click this little area and match what I have. So the color is going to indicate the masked area. So what that means is that every area that is not in my selection, okay, is going to have this red at an opacity of 50%. Okay, so let me click it again. And there we have it. So we can see every area that is not selected has red of opacity. And I click this and I can see now. What I want to do right now is come in and get this in a much more specific manner and really kind of clean this up. So how can I go about doing that? Well, When I'm in quick mask mode, you're going to find down here your colors. We have black and we have white. What I want to do now is I want to grab my brush. Now, do not grab your history brush tool. We want to get the brush, which is right underneath the Band-Aid. So I'm going to, and above the clone safe. So I'm going to click the brush tool. I want the brush tool. And what I can do with my brush tool is I can set it at a certain number of pixels. Okay, so I just set it at 55. Now, I have this on black. So see what happens when I come in? Ah, look at that. That is actually painting that selection. Okay, so what I can do though is I can come in and I can get really specific, which is really awesome. So I can come on in, I can grab my brush again, and I can have my flow at 100%, the opacity is at 100%, and I'm going to get rid of this hardness. I want the hardness to be up. I want it to have a hard edge. And I'm going to come in and see what I can do. I can get in here. I can get super specific with this selection up. Now I can also see, look, it has this red in there. I don't want that. So I can come in and I can put white up on top, and look what happens. When I put white up on top, it's going to take away from the selection. Okay, so I can come on in. All right, so again, I want to put the black up on top. Oops, okay, see, so it's real easy to come back in and then take that away. All right, so let me just, let's go down in here. I want the black up on top. So I can go about really getting a nice clean edge. Come this right in there. All right, so let's just take a look. If I click on this guy right there, okay, see how my selection is much more, is working much better now? All right, so I'm gonna come on in, I'm gonna start working around this guy. Let me do it one more time. So again, I come in, all right, so I look right here. Ooh, okay, I need to fix this guy up. So I click on this, I grab my brush. Okay, when white is up on top, I am cleaning up, so I can come in here, I can erase some of this selection, right? When black is on top, I can come in and I can add to and just fix this up. So now again, when you work with this, if you try to just click this without having anything selected, it will not work. So when we work with quick selection, step one is to make a selection somewhere all right, let's just take a look and I'll come back to that. Okay, so there we go. Keep on moving along. So step one is to make a selection somewhere in your piece, okay? And then you can click the quick mask mode. So I'm just gonna clean this up just a tad bit. Really make a nice selection here. Moving along, again, H is really awesome. Again, I can come in where I see I want to clean it up a little bit. I can just come on in and clean up, but hey, you're looking pretty good. Again, you can really see how easily it is with the black, because it's so different. Again, and sometimes, if you can get a really good selection, go for it. Your best selections will be when the image you're selecting is very, very different, when the pixels are very different in color, and when there's like a nice contrast between the two. Because then Photoshop is able to go in and select. Now I really should come in and make my brush a little bit bigger, but okay, moving right along. Grabbing my H, moving through my selection, saying, okay, looking good. Down here, it's getting a little bit. I want to put this white up on top. And again, you can tell this is right next to the carpet. So I want to come in, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Now, sometimes too, some of it stays, so you always want to keep checking. Okay, see how that little area has stayed? All right, so I want to go back. I want to click this one more time. got it that time. So it's always good to double check what stays and what doesn't. Need to lower this brush size a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go through, I think you probably have the idea. I'm going to go through and get a really nice clean selection of him, and then I will turn my video back on. So see you in a moment. Okay, so I've made a selection of him, and now very easily, because I have this selected, I can just come in, edit, copy, edit, paste. Now, what will happen, I'm going to turn these other two layers off so we can see this. What will happen is it will put it in its own layer. Now, I want to create a background for this too. You could very easily just throw them into, a different, a landscape or another photograph by selecting them and dropping them in. What I'm doing is I'm going to create a new layer. Now, what we're going to find is whatever layer is on top is going to be what's going to be on top. So I want this layer to be underneath this layer right here. And all I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to put in a fill color. So all I need to do is come into edit and I can come fill, and why not? We'll do 50% gray. And now I can see that he is in this 50% gray background. Now, what I can see too as I did that is that there is some leftover stuff that came with him. I can easily get rid of that by just grabbing my eraser tool and zooming it on in. Oops, okay, now I want to make sure that I'm actually selected on him. See what happened? I was on that layer and then I started to erase, but if I'm selected onto this layer, I can easily come in and just erase that. Okay, so there's a bunch of it, so I can come on in here and clean them up a little bit. So let me come on in here and do that. Hold on for 1 minute. Again, you can see Zoom really does become your good friend here. Grab my eraser. Now again, if you click and you start to see the transparency grid, that is because you are erasing on the wrong layer. Layers can get kind of tricky. Just do your best. Don't be afraid to make lots of mistakes. All right, so let me, why don't I, maybe I probably you want me to hit pause while I do this. Again, there's so many different, I'll talk as I work, there's so many different things in Photoshop that it can get really confusing. So, for instance, if yours isn't showing up, not working properly, make sure that opacity is up. So we can kind of erase something just a little bit by lowering the opacity. Make sure that your flow is at 100%. If you wanted it to go slowly, just erase a little bit at a time, you would lower down the flow. So let me just double check, see what else. There's some residual down in here. That doesn't bother me so much down below. I'm going to do right up. Oops, my goodness. I'm going to do right up, edit undo. Thank God for edit undo around here. So I'm going to hit pause, fix this up. I'll be right back. Okay, so I cleaned this up just a little bit. Next thing I want to do, and again, I can turn these guys back on so I have them. Maybe what I want to do just to keep a copy, not a bad idea, kind of, then if you need it again, you can come back and grab it. I'm going to duplicate this layer of him being cut out. So I can come on in, I can say duplicate layer, okay. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a black and white image. So I can come on in here, I can come to just this one layer up here, right? It's just going to happen to this one layer. I can come to image, adjustments, black and white. All right, so we can see that, he's the only image that is black and white. So let's see here too with the blues. Let's see. We can come on in and change this around a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to hit cancel real quick. Let's actually try this. what we can do, actually, let's just select his tie and then inverse our selection. So just like we did it, we can look and see how the tie is very different than the black all around it. And what I want to do is do a little bit of limited color with just his tie. So I could come on in, and I think it's going to be pretty easy. See how easy it is to get this selection of this tie? Very easy. So what I'm going to do now is I can come on up, I can say select, and I want to inverse my selection. Okay, now I'm on this layer, so I'm going to come on up, image, adjustments, black and white. All right, so what we can see happened is the black and white went on to him, and my blue tie was not done at all. All right, so now what I want to do too is I'm going to up this blue of the tie. So I'm going to come on in and say select inverse one more time. Now I just have this tie selected, and I'm going to come on up, image, adjustments, and I'm going to work with this hue saturation. Let's really just brighten this up. Let's actually add to the saturation of this blue. We always want to preview. We'll say okay. We can deselect, and voila, there we have it. We have an image of a little guy with a bright blue tie on. Let's just do one more thing. Turn this off. We can see we have this. Our background has all stayed the same. Right, we could come on in, work with our dodge and burn a little bit if we'd like to, but let's just take a look at one more little piece that we can do. We can add a layer style. So if I wanted to come on in and I wanted to add, let's actually add a drop shadow. Okay, we can see there we have it, adding this on. We can actually come on in and change the distance. We can actually look at the angle of where it is, moving it over more in that direction. We can spread the size of it. Okay, and we can also work, actually that was the size, let me work with the spread of it. All right, sometimes too, when you start working the drop shadows, you can see what has happened with the edges. We can even come on in normal. All right, so there's a lot of different options. I hit dissolve, and a lot of different ways that we can work and play around with this. So we hit OK, and there we have it. We find ourselves with a little bit of a finished image here. We can save it, file. Now, sometimes if your image is really big and you like what you have, you can merge your layers. We can come to layer, we can say flatten image, and what will happen is that will really reduce the size. We can see, the size info down here, and then we come file, save as, and we can save it as a JPEG. So I'll end there. Thanks so much for listening.